Meghan Markle has just made the judge of Australian MasterChef, a household name, beloved figure in Australia, Poh Ling Yeow, cry.
For 3 months, everyone had an opinion about what happened between Poh Ling Yeow and Meghan Markle in that MasterChef kitchen. Everyone except Poh Ling Yeow. One word in a scripted introduction, 4 seconds of television, and suddenly the whole thing was a rift, a snub. A beloved Australian judge left upset on her own set. All of it from people who refused to be named. She said nothing while it ran. Then she sat down in a radio studio, was asked the question everybody wanted answered, and answered it in a way nobody covering the story ever saw coming.
Meghan Markle is attempting to distract by showing a series of holiday photos, her summer holiday photos, on Instagram, despite reports that she made one of the co-hosts on MasterChef basically cry.
The loudest woman in the kitchen. The judge was Poh Ling Yeow, and anyone who has watched her work knows exactly what kind of presence she brings to a kitchen. She talks constantly. She jokes constantly. She is the one who fills a silence when a nervous contestant is falling apart at a bench, and she has been doing it on Australian screens since she came second on the very first series of MasterChef Australia in 2009, beaten in the final by Julie Goodwin. She went away, fronted her own programs on the ABC and SBS, wrote cookbooks, came back as a mentor, came back again as a contestant, and joined the judging panel properly in 2024. 52 years old, Malaysian-born, based in Adelaide.
I'm going to tell you something really important now. You're the favorite.
Oh, Gordon!
When Australian television needs somebody to make a nervous guest feel at home on camera, she is close to the top of the list, which is the first thing that makes the story odd. If a production wanted a judge capable of leaving a guest cold, Poh would be the last name on the sheet. She was chosen from more than 7,000 applicants for that first series, eliminated in June of 2009 over a bowl of minestrone she failed to identify, brought back a fortnight later, and carried all the way to the final anyway. The line itself was ordinary. Standing in the kitchen, she told the room the show had welcomed MasterChef royalty in the kitchen before, but nobody quite liked this one, and then brought Meghan in from sunny California as the Duchess of Sussex. Media Week published the wording. It is the sort of build a judge delivers dozens of times across a season, written upstairs, cleared upstairs, read aloud by whoever is standing on the mark. According to the Daily Telegraph, in the lead-up to the episode, Meghan had become upset because a request not to be referred to as royalty went unhonored. That came from a source described as close to the Duchess. No name attached, no statement from Meghan, nothing from Network 10. The source, who would not sign New Idea, then took it further, reporting that Poh herself had been left upset, not by anything Meghan did, but by finding herself dragged into a royal protocol drama she had no part in creating.
I am inclined to believe that these sources to New Idea are correct. She was simply trying to make Meghan feel comfortable, trying to be warm, and you saw that look.
An insider told the magazine she was willing to reach out immediately after the shoot and had been advised to leave the matter for the production to handle. That distinction went missing almost instantly in the coverage that followed. The reported grievance was never that Meghan had done something to Poh. It was that a scripted line had put a judge in an awkward position on somebody else's behalf. And it is worth being precise about where a line like that comes from. A judge on a long-running competition format does not write her own introduction for a guest of that profile. The wording travels through producers, through network publicity, and where a guest brings her own representatives through them as well. If an instruction about that particular word existed, the people who failed to carry it into the final script were sitting in an office. The person who read it aloud was the last link in the chain and the only one with her face attached. The same reporting carried a qualifier that most of the aggregation stripped out on the way through. Insiders said there had been no major conflict and described the day as a typical high-pressure television production. A source characterized Poh as somebody who runs on energy and lifts the mood of a room, who tried to bring that same spark to a guest she had never met, and whose playful lines did not all land the way she intended. That is a warm person trying slightly too hard. It is not a confrontation. New Idea also reported that the matter was never formally discussed by the Sussexes, and that the producers declined to comment in either direction, which left the published account resting on 2 unnamed people describing two women's private feelings about the same 4 seconds. A loaf of banana bread. Wind back to 2018. Meghan and Harry are touring Australia, and at some point on that trip, Meghan makes a coconut banana bread. It is a small thing, the sort of detail that survives in a caption and nowhere else. And by April of this year, it is 7 years old. Somebody on the MasterChef production remembered it. Picture the meeting where that happens. A guest segment is being planned around a challenge on seasonal produce and personal food stories. Somebody goes back through what Meghan cooked the last time she was in the country, finds the banana bread, and puts it on the list. The ingredients get sourced. It goes onto a call sheet already scheduled to the minute. And on the morning of the shoot in Melbourne, before the guest arrives, before the cameras are up, Poh Ling Yeow bakes a coconut banana bread for a woman she has never met, because 7 years ago, that woman baked one here. There is nothing performative about the timing of it either. The bread is baked before the guest is in the building, which means it was made without any guarantee that a camera would ever be pointed at it, and without any guarantee the recipient would care. Plenty of hospitality on television is staged for the shot. This particular loaf was in the oven while the studio was still empty. Meghan arrives and spends the full day on set. She talks about how much she loves the country and about the sentimental trip she and Harry made almost 8 years earlier.
We love Australia. We had the most sentimental, amazing time. We were here almost 8 years ago. Oh, wow. We announced we were pregnant with Archie at the time.
Somewhere in that day, Poh gives her the loaf. Meghan tries it and asks for the recipe. That is not a gesture you make for somebody you have been at war with. It is also not a gesture that can be improvised. It requires research, a planning meeting, a shopping list, and an hour of somebody's morning on a day when nobody has an hour spare. Productions do not build that into a call sheet for a guest they are bracing for, none of which proves the reported friction never happened. Two things can sit side by side: a genuinely warm shoot and a moment of awkwardness inside it. But the version that traveled was not a moment of awkwardness. The version that traveled was a rift. How a story outruns its episode. The segment was filmed in April. The episode did not air until the 26th of July. 3 months and nothing to check any of it against. An unaired episode is the perfect subject for speculation, precisely because the footage is sitting in an edit suite where nobody can see it. Every outlet covering the story was describing scenes none of them had watched, on the word of people none of them would name. Yahoo, reporting on the claims at the time, noted plainly that neither woman had said anything publicly about them. That single line is the whole architecture. There was no denial to report, because nobody had gone on the record to deny anything. The pattern critics of this kind of coverage point to works exactly the same way every time. A small, plausible, unverifiable claim gets published. It is aggregated onward, and each pass sands off another qualifier. Reportedly and allegedly survive 3 rewrites and quietly vanish by the 5th. By the time it reaches a comment section, an anonymous claim that a judge felt awkward has hardened into a fact that a judge was made to cry. There is a second mechanism at work as well, and it is less discussed. Stories about this particular couple carry a guaranteed audience, which means an outlet weighing whether to run a thinly sourced claim is not making a neutral editorial decision. The incentive runs one way, and it runs the same way every week, which sets up the imbalance at the center of this entire story. On one side, unnamed sources relayed through outlets that benefit from the story running. On the other, eventually, a named woman speaking on tape with her own reputation attached. Those are not equivalent forms of evidence, and for 3 months, only one of them existed. What went to air? Then the episode aired, and the footage turned out to be unremarkable. Meghan judged the final 4. She and the panel traded banter about the American pronunciation of herbs with the silent H, which is the oldest reliable joke available between an American and a room full of Australians.
It's such a great show, and I'm just really honored that I was asked to be able to be here with you and to be able to judge some of these meals. So thank you. Thanks for having
dropping
me.
in.
New Idea's account of the broadcast has her laughing with Poh and with Sophia Levin while the contestants cooked. One detail from that coverage got recycled hard afterwards. Contestants gravitated repeatedly towards Poh for reassurance. During the challenge, which was offered up elsewhere, as proof that Meghan had been frozen out of her own segment. The duller explanation is that Poh is a permanent judge who has spent 2 seasons building trust with those cooks, and Meghan had walked through the door that morning. What the footage does not contain is any visible trace of the incident that had been reported for 3 months. There is no frost, no clipped exchange, no moment where the room tightens. That is not conclusive on its own, since an edit exists to remove exactly that, and reports indicated some off-air exchanges did not survive the cut. But an 80-minute shoot compressed into a broadcast hour loses material from every guest segment ever filmed, and the version that reached air read as an ordinary, faintly overexcited day at work. The show's own account then posted a behind-the-scenes clip of Poh walking Meghan through the MasterChef pantry, captioned around finding a bestie in the kitchen. A network always publishes its warmest footage, and a promotional clip proves nothing on its own. So, the broadcast showed 2 people getting on, and the reporting described an incident, and only one person alive could settle, which was closer to the day itself. She had spent 3 months declining to. Stay with this, because the part almost none of the coverage caught up with is what Poh volunteered about Meghan unprompted at the end, when nobody had asked her for it. The radio interview. She stopped declining on KIISFM in a sit-down with Georgie Tunney, reported by Now to Love. Tunney put it to her more or less directly. What was it actually like, given everything that had been said? Poh did not hedge, and she did not do the thing that media-trained guests do, which is acknowledge the question and then answer a different one. She started by naming the elephant. There was, she said, an enormous amount of public conjecture about it. Then she answered it. Meghan had been absolutely delightful. She had nothing but praise for the time the 2 of them spent together, and she said so without qualification. From there, it turned into a character reference. Easygoing, a good sense of humor, a consummate professional. Poh noted that Meghan is an actor by trade and slid into the judging role seamlessly, which from a judge who has watched a great many guests struggle in that chair is a technical compliment rather than a polite one. Grounded, quick to laugh, at ease with everybody on set from early on. And then she went somewhere nobody had asked her to go. She expressed empathy for the scrutiny Meghan lives under. That last beat is the one that matters, and it is the one that got the least attention. Poh was not asked to comment on Meghan's treatment by the press. She was asked about a day at work. She answered the question and then added of her own accord that she felt for what the constant examination must be like. Consider the position she was in when she said it. By April, she had been handed the sympathetic role in the story, and it is a comfortable role. The well-liked Australian judge wronged by an imported celebrity's protocol demands, a version of events that costs her nothing and flatters her. She could have said nothing at all and kept it indefinitely. She could have given 3 bland words about a lovely day and let the narrative keep running on her behalf.
So much public conjecture about this. She was so delightful, like nothing but praise for the time that we spent for her. She just slid right into that judging role like seamlessly.
She went on the radio and defended the other woman instead. There is a cost to that, and it is worth naming plainly. In this particular story, the sympathetic seat is the one you get for staying quiet. The moment a person steps out of it and says the visiting celebrity was perfectly pleasant, some portion of the audience stops treating them as a witness and starts treating them as compromised or bought or naive. Poh will have understood that before she opened her mouth. Gio, covering the interview afterwards, framed it as the judge at the center of the alleged rift, shutting the rumors down herself, which is precisely what it was. She said it anyway, months after the episode aired, with nothing left to promote. And she said it in a format where there is no press officer sitting between the question and the answer, the panel and the obvious objection. She was not the only one from that kitchen willing to attach a name to it. Poh, Sophia Levin, and Jean-Christophe Novelli put out a joint statement describing the day as a treat, saying Meghan seemed entirely at home, and comparing the moment she was introduced to the contestants to the best kind of surprise party. They praised her curiosity, said she put the room at ease quickly by learning about the home cooks through their food, and finished by saying they would have her back in a heartbeat. The objection to that writes itself, and it is a fair one. A joint statement released through a network actively promoting an episode it had paid to make is not neutral evidence. Nobody involved had the slightest commercial interest in describing the day as a disaster. Statements like that exist to be positive, and treating one as testimony would be naive. It is also worth noting what the statement does not do. It does not address the reported protocol request, or the word, or the claim about Poh being upset. It describes a pleasant day and stops there, which is what corporate statements are built to do, and which is why it cannot function as a rebuttal to anything. The radio interview is a different object entirely. That was one judge, months later, answering a live question with the episode already broadcast, and the promotional job long finished, choosing to spend her own credibility rather than the network's. What the skeptics are right about. The counterweight belongs here, because a case that ducks its own rebuttal is worth very little. A colleague's public praise is not proof that nothing happened. People in television are professionally warm about one another, and Poh was speaking about a network that employs her regarding an episode it had just aired. That is a real conflict, and it should be stated rather than buried. It is also entirely possible that both accounts are partly true. Somebody on Meghan's team may well have raised the wording. Poh may genuinely have felt awkward on the day. And she may still, months later, and with distance, regard the whole thing as a minor production wrinkle that got inflated, which is not a contradiction so much as what perspective does to small incidents over time. There is one more concession the case has to make. Nobody outside that production knows what was requested, by whom, or in what tone, and no amount of warm footage settles a question about a private instruction passed between a publicist and a producer. That part remains genuinely unknown, and it probably always will.
My understanding, Lady C, is she wasn't doing this show for altruistic reasons. She was doing it for a big, fat paycheck.
What the skeptics cannot claim is that the two sides carry equal weight as evidence. Anonymous insiders and a named woman on tape are different categories of thing, and pretending otherwise is how 4 seconds of television becomes a scandal. The next kitchen. There is a version of this that repeats. Another guest, another set, another line cleared upstairs and read aloud by whoever is standing on the mark. Another anonymous source with a version of the day ready before the footage exists. The machinery is already built, and it does not need this particular episode. None of that makes the machinery malicious. It makes it predictable, which is worse in its way, because a predictable process does not require anyone inside it to intend the outcome it produces. What changed here is small and worth holding onto. For 3 months, the loudest account of that Melbourne shoot came from people who would not put their names to it. And the woman standing in the middle of it said nothing. Then she sat in a radio studio and put her name to the opposite, knowing what it would cost her with the audience that had been defending her. That is the answer to the question this whole thing has been asking, and it is not the answer 3 months of headlines were building towards. If that distinction is worth something to you, subscribe and drop a comment. Does a name witness on tape outweigh an anonymous source, or has that stopped mattering entirely? Next up, what Network 10 actually left out of that episode, and what the edit reveals about how these guest segments really get made. That one lands in a couple of days.